Anti-Israel groups are planning to protest wearing Palestinian keffiyehs around the Nazi Buchenwald concentration camp on the anniversary of its liberation. Well, founder of From the Depths, Jonny Daniels, joins us now. So, Johnny, what's happening here?
Unfortunately, what we're seeing is a group of horrendous people, of these anti-Semites, who are going to be using the anniversary of the liberation of Buchenwald, a German Nazi concentration camp where close to 60,000 people were killed. And they're going to be marching there on its anniversary, wearing these keffiyehs, these Arabic headdresses, these scarves, as some kind of connection to what they feel is happening in Gaza. A very, very sad thing to use a real genocide, the Holocaust, to cosplay some care that apparently they have for the Palestinian people.
So apparently, this is about the idea that Palestinian keffiyehs are banned in this place. Um, Maybe for the outsider, why is this kind of a sensitive political situation?
Well, look, when we're dealing with the German Nazi death camps, of which there were many, we hear about and we think about concentration camps, we think about places like Auschwitz, for example. It's a name that we've all heard of. The truth is that there were dozens and dozens of concentration camps all throughout Europe and Eastern Europe, run by the German Nazis and their allies. And these are sites of tremendously painful heritage and memory, obviously for the Jewish people, but for the other people who were slaughtered and murdered brutally there by the Germans as well. And the so-called Palestinian supporters coming to these sites wearing these headdresses, trying to somehow connect the tragedy of the Holocaust with the war that had happened in Gaza as a result of Hamas, a Palestinian terror group, an Islamic terror group, is just beyond belief and pretty horrendous.
Well, Johnny, I don't have to tell you this. Obviously, your organization, From the Depths, deals with, tragically, some of the few remaining survivors of the Holocaust. You and I have been in Poland together, talk with some of your friends who, survived places like Auschwitz. This is a deeply personal story to you. But before we got started, we were talking about this. I don't know how else to put it, this weird demonic rise in anti-Semitism on the right. And one of the things that is being said recently that's is gaining a lot of traction is, hey, the Jews, specifically the European Jews, aren't actually Jews. I saw this tweet that said, hey, during the Holocaust, Jews were killed in Poland because they were told, hey, you're not Polish. Now Jews that are from Poland are being told that you aren't Jews. It's like just this weird, it's always this moving target of anti-Semitism. But I wanted to have you address this idea that's getting again gaining a lot of traction, that somehow Ashkenazi European Jews are somehow not Jews. How would you respond to that?
I mean, look, it's beyond belief and it's a complete joke. Um, One of the most special things of Judaism is this lineage that we have and this connection that we have to our parents and our grandparents and our great grandparents. My family part came from Poland and the other part came from Israel, lived in Israel for 15 centuries, as far as we can go back, probably even more. And this notion that Jews are somehow, that modern day Jews are somehow not connected to that, is beyond belief and it's laughable. And it's nothing more than just flat out anti Semitism. Jews were always going to be targeted, unfortunately, for all different reasons. Sometimes we're too rich, sometimes we're too poor, sometimes we're too successful, the other times we're not successful enough. It doesn't really make a difference. I think we're the only group of people that get blamed for everything. And within that, when they come out with these wild, pathetic conspiracy theories that, we're not really Jews, I mean, again, it's a complete joke. And it is something that is, it's not even, it's just stupid, honestly. When I saw the interview with Tucker Carlson and him talking about Bibi really, he's not a practicing, just like, come on, right? Like, really, like, this is the level that they have to go to because all the other arguments have failed, right? Is to try and attempt. And at the end of the day, I speak and pray from the prayer books that my grandfather and great grandfather prayed from in Poland. We're coming up to Jewish holidays. during those holidays, I literally have his books that were printed in Poland. And, you know, and especially if we're using Poland as an example, Jews were always looked at as the outside, always reminded this isn't your place, right? You're guests here. And so to be guests somewhere for 1,000 years and we can trace that back and trace back how we got there is again beyond laughable. I did DNA testing, as a lot of people did, just to see. It's quite popular with Ashkenazi Jews, and the reason why it's popular is because unfortunately so many of us lost so many family members in the Holocaust. The 6 million Jews who were killed in the Holocaust were almost all Ashkenazi Jews. My great grandfather lost his entire family, and sometimes you never know. Like maybe someone somehow survived, and there's a whole part of my family living some exotic place in the middle of nowhere that I didn't know of. So a lot of us do these kinds of tests, and my test came back. I think I was like 99.9% Ashkenazi Jew, right? So you're not going to get. All of us have the same DNA. All of us have the same connection. Again, this claim that maybe we are, maybe we aren't, is something that honestly, it's a bit of a waste of time to talk about because it is just so laughable and pathetic.
It is laughable and pathetic, but what's tragic is how much these theories are gaining traction. For example, I'm not Jewish, full Gentile, but people say, "Oh, you're getting paid by APAC." I'm like, dude, I've never even been to an APAC conference. Well, here's your $7,000. I was like, I would love to see $7,000. Oh, you're getting paid by Israel. I'm like, actually, I have 3 kids. I need a mortgage. I would love to be paid by Israel. Never received a dime. Never been to an APAC conference. I'm not Jewish. I've just been to Israel 30 times as a lover of the God of Israel. And so people, I see it so clearly, but people, another example is that people making all these comments, over 50% of over 50% of Israeli Jews are actually Mizrahi, Sephardi. They're brown. You go to Israel, you'll see more diversity than you'll see anywhere. It's the skin colors of the Jewish people are diverse. And the word isn't infuriating. The word is like almost sad. It's like, man, we've gotten to this point again where just outrageous and obvious lies about the Jewish people are accepted as truth, and it's insane. But maybe in closing, my friend, since this is a story about the Holocaust, and you've dedicated so much of your life to understanding the Holocaust. Um, Going back to this whole protest thing, what would be your final message, Jonny, as someone who's again just dedicated so much of his life to understanding the Holocaust? What should be a message, a lesson learned from the 30s and 40s that we can use now?
Look, I think the message is for humanity. Thank God the Jewish people are in a very different place today. Whilst there is this unbelievable rise in anti Semitism across the board, there's that horseshoe of the far right and the far left, joining together with their hatred of the Jew. The difference today is that thank God we don't have to rely on anybody else. Thank God we are strong. I'm sitting here talking to you from my apartment in Tel Aviv. I'm home with my people in my homeland, with the Jewish army, with the Jewish government. We are the strongest we've been in thousands of years. And when we see this rise of hatred across the board, we all need to stand up against it. And, honestly, for the Jews, it's important. Anti Semitism is bad. But the bigger problem, Raj, is what comes next. Because I'm telling you, when Jews leave countries, which is going to happen, when anti Semitism becomes so big that Jews have to leave a country, what comes next is going to be the bigger problem for the people who live there. And until people stand up and start realizing that, that's going to be that's going to be the biggest issue that we're going to face. And I'm going to end with a final word, which is a big thank you to you, because we've known each other for quite a few years already, maybe 15 years, maybe by this point.
Yeah.
And your dedication to this is something that it's infectious, and it means so much to us. It's social media is overwhelmingly angry and negative and a horrible, horrible place. And so much of the media landscape has become like that. And for many Jews who sit and watch different news outlets in different places, it becomes very scary and very upsetting. And I know that without doubt that whenever I tune into you and I see you on CBN Digital, I'm always going to be met with the truth and with a smile and with just graciousness and decency. And I can tell you that even though Israel isn't paying you, we appreciate it. We really, really, really do. I don't even get paid by Israel, and I live here, buddy. I wish I also got paid. I also got a mortgage. But this is how it works, and it's all part of this battle to fight for the truth. And at the end of the day, whilst it is scary and it is worrying, the truth always, always wins. And the
Amen.
end of this is going to be wonderful, and it's going to be victorious, and it's going to be beautiful, because goodness always, always, always beats darkness.
Well, I thank you for saying that, my friend. And I'll leave with this, which is Am Israel Chai, which just simply means the people of Israel live. And the thing is statistically, if you look through history, the Jewish people shouldn't. You talk about exterminations from like the Nazis or the Egyptians or the Romans or the Babylonians or the Assyrians, and yet Am Israel Chai, the people of Israel live. Jonny
Hallelujah.
Daniels, Todah Rabah, my friend, and God
Thank
bless.
you, brother. Thank you. God bless.